For more than 20 years, Kevin O'Connor has been one of the most familiar and steady faces on television, especially for viewers who care about homes, craftsmanship, and learning how things are built the right way. When people think about This Old House, they often picture Kevin standing calmly on a job site, asking thoughtful questions, listening carefully to experts, and guiding viewers through complicated projects without making them feel overwhelmed. What makes his story unusual is that he was never meant to be there in the first place. Kevin did not grow up dreaming about television, fame, or hosting a long-running show. In fact, his early career had nothing to do with media at all. Before becoming a television host, Kevin worked in finance, holding high-level positions at major banks, where his daily life revolved around numbers, contracts, and large business deals. He worked at Fleet Bank and later at Bank of America, where he helped structure complex financial agreements tied to sports arenas and large commercial buildings. By his early 30s, Kevin had already reached the level of senior vice president, earning a strong income and following a path that most people would consider secure and successful. From the outside, his life looked settled and complete, with no obvious reason to change direction. But beneath that surface stability, something deeper was quietly shaping who he was. Kevin grew up in a household where building and fixing things was a normal part of daily life. His father was a civil engineer, and the family home often felt like a constant work in progress. Walls were opened, systems were repaired, and improvements were always underway. As a child, Kevin learned not just how to use tools, but how to think about why buildings are designed the way they are, and how small decisions can affect how a house functions over time. Even when Kevin moved into the world of finance, that early influence never fully disappeared. It stayed with him, even while he sat in offices and boardrooms far removed from construction sites. Everything changed when Kevin and his wife Kathleen purchased a Queen Anne Victorian house that was built in the late 1800s. At first, the house felt like a dream come true, full of character and history. But it quickly became clear that the home needed far more work than they expected. Structural issues, outdated systems, and endless cosmetic problems turned daily life into a constant renovation challenge. One of the most frustrating problems involved layers of old wallpaper that simply would not come off, no matter what Kevin tried. After months of struggling, Kevin reached out to the crew at This Old House for advice. It was not a strategic career move or an attempt to get on television. It was simply a homeowner asking for help. What Kevin did not know at the time was that the show's producers were exploring new ideas and new formats. When they visited his home, they were not just offering advice, they were quietly observing him. Kevin did not try to perform for the camera. He did not act like an expert or pretend to know more than he did. He asked honest questions, listened carefully, and showed genuine curiosity. That authenticity stood out immediately. After reviewing many potential candidates, the producers made an unexpected choice. They selected Kevin, a man with no television background and no intention of becoming a public figure, to join the show. Kevin accepted cautiously, asking his employer to hold his position because he assumed the television job would be temporary. That decision alone says a lot about his mindset. He did not see hosting as a destination. He saw it as an experiment. Yet over time, that experiment became one of the longest-running hosting roles in home improvement television, slowly reshaping the identity of the show and Kevin's own life in ways he never planned. Taking on a role at This Old House was never just another job. By the time Kevin stepped into the position, the show already carried decades of history, expectations, and emotional attachment from viewers. The program had been shaped by earlier hosts who left strong impressions, including Bob Vila, who helped define the show in its earliest years before departing amid sponsorship conflicts that raised questions about public television and commercial influence. After him came Steve Thomas, who brought stability and guided the show through many seasons, only to leave quietly without much explanation to viewers. By the time Kevin arrived, the role was not empty. It was heavy with unresolved expectations. Kevin also faced another challenge. He was not a contractor, not a carpenter, and not a trained television personality. He was an outsider. From the beginning, there was little effort to ease him into the job. Instead, he was expected to learn by doing. Longtime cast members did not treat him like a star or a presenter. They treated him like someone who needed to earn his place. He dug trenches, handled tools he had never mastered, and learned under real pressure. There was no room for pretending. That experience shaped how Kevin approached the role. Instead of positioning himself as an expert, he became a stand-in for the viewer. He asked the same questions a homeowner would ask. He admitted when he did not understand something. Over time, that approach built trust. Viewers did not watch Kevin because he knew everything. They watched because he was learning alongside them. But that transparency also came with risk. Every mistake was visible. Every learning moment happened on camera. Unlike hosts who rely on scripted confidence, Kevin had to earn credibility episode by episode. Some critics questioned whether someone from finance could sustain a role that demanded technical understanding and long-term connection with the audience. Yet gradually, his approach proved effective. He received industry recognition, including an Emmy nomination, signaling that his presence resonated beyond the show's loyal audience. As years passed, Kevin became more than just a host. He became a steady guide during a time when the show itself began to change. Over the past several years, longtime viewers started noticing shifts. Familiar faces who had been part of the program for decades began stepping away. Norm Abram, a cornerstone of the show since its earliest days, retired after more than 40 years. Roger Cook also exited due to health concerns. These were not minor changes. They represented the loss of voices that had defined the show across generations. For many viewers, these departures felt emotional and unsettling. Kevin found himself at the center of this transition, not because he caused it, but because he remained. As the most visible constant, he became the person audiences looked to for reassurance. He introduced new contributors carefully, allowing time for viewers to adjust. Still, when multiple longtime cast members leave in a short period, questions naturally follow. Viewers began wondering whether these changes signaled something larger. Was the show shifting direction? Was leadership changing behind the scenes? And what did all of this mean for Kevin himself? The rumors about Kevin O'Connor's future did not appear suddenly. They grew slowly, shaped by silence, timing, and visible change. When familiar faces disappear and routines shift, audiences instinctively look for explanations. Kevin's role made him an easy focus for speculation. As the host, he is the most public-facing figure, the one who introduces changes and speaks directly to viewers. Over time, some viewers noticed that Kevin appeared more reflective in interviews, more open about the challenges of maintaining a long-running show, and more thoughtful about legacy and transition. These observations were not dramatic on their own, but together they created a sense of uncertainty. Online discussions began asking whether Kevin might be preparing to step away, whether he was addressing rumors through his tone rather than explicit statements. Kevin has not announced plans to leave, and he has not framed the show's changes as an ending. Instead, his public comments emphasize continuity, respect for the past, and careful adaptation. He has spoken about honoring what came before, while making space for new voices. Rather than signaling departure, these statements suggest responsibility. Kevin appears aware that during times of transition, leadership is not about permanence, but about stability. The reason rumors persist is not because Kevin has done something wrong, but because he represents continuity in a changing landscape. When audiences see long-standing institutions evolve, they naturally fear loss. Kevin becomes the symbol of that fear, not its cause. What Kevin's story ultimately shows is that leadership does not always look like control or certainty. Sometimes it looks like listening, patience, and the willingness to guide others through uncertainty without promising easy answers. Kevin was never meant to host This Old House, yet he became one of its most defining figures by doing exactly that. The rumors surrounding his future reflect how deeply viewers care about the show and what it represents. As long as change continues, questions will remain. But Kevin's calm presence suggests that the story is not about departure, but about stewardship. Whether he stays for years or eventually passes the role to someone else, his impact is already clear. He helped reshape what a television host can be, proving that authenticity, humility, and curiosity can be just as powerful as expertise. And in a world that often rushes toward conclusions, that steady approach may be exactly why people are paying such close attention now. For a long time now, many viewers have been asking the same question about Kevin O'Connor and his future on This Old House. The rumors did not appear overnight, and they did not start from a single moment. Instead, they slowly grew over time, shaped by small details that some viewers noticed and began to talk about online. Kevin has always been open about his views on home renovation and television, especially when it comes to how modern renovation shows often rush projects, hide real costs, or simplify difficult work just to make good television. In several interviews, he shared concerns about how these shows can give homeowners the wrong idea about how long projects take and how much effort real construction requires. While many people agreed with him and respected his honesty, others began to wonder if his comments showed frustration with the industry itself. Because Kevin is connected to one of the most trusted home improvement shows ever made, his words carried more weight than most. This caused people to read between the lines, even when no direct message was there. At the same time, Kevin stayed quiet about certain topics that fans expected him to address. One of the most noticeable examples was his silence about the departure of Bob Vila, a key figure in the show's history. In a media world where many hosts talk openly about past conflicts and changes, Kevin's choice not to comment stood out. Some fans saw this as avoidance, while others felt it was a sign of respect or professionalism. As time passed, this silence became part of the story itself. Instead of stopping the rumors, it made people more curious. Viewers began to ask whether Kevin was unhappy, whether there were internal issues behind the scenes, or whether he was quietly planning his own exit. What made the situation more interesting was that Kevin did not react the way many television personalities do. There were no emotional interviews, no social media posts denying the rumors, and no dramatic announcements. In a time when public figures often rush to defend themselves, Kevin did the opposite. He said nothing. That choice confused some people, but impressed others. To many inside the industry, silence can be a powerful tool when used carefully. Rather than feeding speculation, Kevin appeared to focus on his work. The rumors continued, but so did his presence. Week after week, season after season, he remained on screen, calm and consistent, doing the job he had always done. This contrast between growing speculation and steady behavior created tension, and that tension became the foundation of the conversation. People were no longer just asking if he was leaving. They were asking why he seemed so confident staying quiet, while everyone else talked. As time went on, it became clear that Kevin's role was much larger than many viewers realized. He was no longer just the person guiding conversations on camera or asking questions during a renovation. Behind the scenes, his responsibilities had expanded into areas that shaped the future of the brand itself. Kevin became deeply involved in decisions about how the show should grow and how it should reach new audiences. This included helping guide the editorial direction of related content, making sure that the same clear and educational tone was used not just on television, but also in magazines, online articles, and digital platforms. Rather than letting the show stay locked in the past, he supported changes that allowed it to remain relevant in a changing media world. One of the most important shifts was the move towards streaming and free digital access. Many viewers no longer watch television the way they once did, and Kevin understood that if the show wanted to survive, it needed to meet audiences where they already were. By making a large library of episodes available online, the show reached younger viewers and people who never watched traditional broadcast television. This was not an easy change. It required careful planning to make sure the show's values were not lost. Kevin played a key role in making sure that even as the format evolved, the heart of the program stayed the same. At the same time, the style of the show itself slowly adjusted. Earlier seasons often featured long segments that followed a process from start to finish in real time. As attention spans changed, Kevin helped refine the pacing. Segments became more focused, explanations became clearer, and conversations went deeper instead of broader. Rather than asking simple questions, Kevin began guiding discussions toward why decisions were made, not just how. This allowed new viewers to learn without overwhelming them, while also giving experienced viewers something meaningful to think about. His influence also expanded into other formats, such as podcasting and extended interviews, where longer conversations could explore complex topics like building science, materials, and design choices. These formats allowed the brand to remain educational without being limited by time constraints. Kevin's involvement in hands-on projects and tool-related ventures further connected the show to real-life learning. Viewers were not just watching a renovation anymore. They were being invited to understand it and apply that knowledge themselves. When you look at all of this together, a clear picture begins to form. This is not the behavior of someone slowly stepping away. It is the behavior of someone deeply invested in long-term growth. Every move Kevin made showed planning, patience, and purpose. He was building systems, not closing doors. He was expanding influence, not reducing responsibility. While rumors continued to circulate, his actions told a very different story. People preparing to leave usually simplify their workload. Kevin did the opposite. He took on more responsibility, more visibility, and more influence. That contrast is important, because it shows that the real answer to the rumors was never going to be found in a headline or a statement. It was always going to be found in how he spent his time.